Oh, we're live.
No, in like oh, there we go. We're live. You could have continued with your thought. That Jonathan Larsen, folks, he is the editor of two Substacks, the Jonathan Larsen Substack, and also Jonathan. What's the other Substack they should subscribe to?
I'm allowed to say that?
Yes,
Okay, the other one's called The Fucking News.
there you go. I have kids, so I couldn't say it. Jonathan was also a long-term former executive producer at MSNBC, senior producer for Countdown with Keith Olbermann, veteran of The Daily Show, ABC News, CNN, Young Turk, and now he does some adversarial investigative journalism. And a couple of days ago, he reached out to me, and he's like, as the Democratic Party and the corporate media has lost its mind over Hassan Piker, and folks can't stop, won't stop. If you've been following the news today, again, Jonathan Ossoff now got pressured. So now Jonathan Ossoff is condemning Hassan Piker for comments that now we know Neera Tanden has made, James Carville has made, Hannah Arendt has made, Ezra Klein has made, Dana Bash has made. CNN is all over it, condemning him. I mean, it is nonstop. It is like, it's not like, it is a manufactured kind of like bat symbol went out and said, destroy this man this week. Then you have Michigan's Attorney General, Dana Nessel, who said she won't support him. Then you had Hillary Scholten, who's a Democrat, who's allegedly having an affair with a Republican who won't support him. So vote blue no matter who, except anyone who opposes Israel genocide and the oligarchy. So you're seeing it happen in real time. I'm not making this up. And then yesterday, Fox News, I think it was one of these individuals, I think Hasan or Rupar, who is a masochist and just looks at Fox News all the time. They said Fox News has spent all its day on Hassan Piker and Abdul Sayed and then WNBA. But Jonathan's like, you know what? There's some other stories here. Republicans have been doing a lot of crazy shit that I don't know. Maybe we should pay attention to. Did you see that Lake Ontario today is now Lake America, Jonathan?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Jonathan's like, I don't have
Okay.
time for this. All right. Let's spin the wheel. Oh, yeah. Also, a trade war with Canada. Canada's retaliating. Uh, Unwinnable war in Iran. Epstein files. Two people dead because of measles in Pennsylvania. We can't eat a lettuce without peeing from our butt. All this is happening, Jonathan. Well, what did I miss?
Well, I guess the reason I thought you might be interested in what I've been talking about lately, I did a piece back in April, I think. I did something last week on if we're looking at, if we're questioning the associations that Al Sayed and other people have, right? Oh, how can you possibly associate yourself with Hassan Piker? Well, if we're going to question people's associations, right? Al Sayed has not endorsed Hassan Piker. He's not said, people should go listen. Hassan Piker speaks for me. But the flip side is you actually have members of Congress who have endorsed the leader of their Bible study, which they have endorsed. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has endorsed this Bible study, which teaches that the Jews killed Jesus. This is the primal original sin of anti Semitism. It's the poison tree from which all of anti Semitism comes. And there are dozens of Republicans in the White House, in the House, in the Senate, who are officially listed as sponsors of this Bible study. Literally, they printed pamphlets the 2 weeks they taught this, and their names are on the same pamphlets that say this. No one cares.
Nope.
It's mind-boggling. So, there are Democrats who are involved in this. They're not sponsors, but one of the allegedly centrist Democrats, House Democrats, who I've focused on a bit, is a guy named Tom Suozzi, a Democrat of New
Yes.
York.
Centrist. We need these centrists, Jonathan. And
Centrist,
also, didn't he
exactly.
vote to give ICE funding and also continues voting with Republicans?
He apologized. He does. He apologized for voting to fund ICE because he didn't realize it had become like a symbolic thing. Well, it's not just a symbolic thing. It's the money that they use to kill and kidnap people. That's the problem. But also, if you want to talk about things that Democrats have said in the center, Kirsten Gillibrand, the person who wanted Haley Stevens to win in Michigan, right? The head of the Senate campaign committee for the Democrats. She has spoken publicly, kind of, about these Bible studies and said it's a rigorous Bible study. She's a participant. Marie Gluesenkamp Perez has helped recruit members of Congress for this Bible study. No one cares. Getting back to Tom Swazi, he actually went to El Salvador in January of this year, got on stage with Nayib Bukele, the president, sitting right on the dais with them, and talked about the miracle that Bukele has pulled off there.
Wow.
That miracle, of course, we'll get to the immigration part, but the non-immigration part of the miracle in El Salvador has been suspending civil rights for going on 5 years now and committing rampant systemic human rights abuses in CCOT, the prison where Bukele happily took people who had been kidnapped off the streets of the US and warehoused them and
Yep.
tortured them
With our money.
for something like $6 million,
Yep.
but basically really just to be buddies with the Trump administration, and offered to Rubio before Tom Swazi said, thanks for this great miracle. And it was at the National Prayer Breakfast, so he was very much he was assigning the imprimatur of God and divine backing to Bukele on national television in El Salvador, after Bukele had said, by the way, if you want to throw American prisoners here as well, I'm happy to take them too. For a
I mean,
sitting congressman to say any of that is wildly further beyond the pale than for a candidate to appear with someone who sort of like said these things that can be taken out of context and are clearly not reflective of who they are, as opposed to Swazi, who's consistent about this stuff.
yeah, Swazi, Christian Gillibrand, promoted Islamophobic fear mongering against Mamdani, has never apologized for it. Her son, who just graduated at the age of 22, somehow raised $30 million for his firm. Totally normal. You had Chuck Schumer take a photo with war criminal Netanyahu last year. You would think that type of association, a smiling photo with a war criminal committing a genocide with our taxpayer dollars, is far worse than a Twitch streamer that no one knew about. You would think Pastor Doug Wilson, who doesn't believe in the 19th Amendment, who said that slavery was mutually harmonious for the enslaved and white people. The fact that he's invited by our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, to give a prayer, and Pete Hegseth has doubled down in support for Pastor Doug Wilson and his church. I don't know. You would think nonstop condemnation. You would think Donald Trump, the fact that a couple of years ago he dined with post-anti-Semite, pre-Nazi Kanye and permanent Nazi Nick Fuentes, privately dined with both folks. I always bring this receipt. Once he was informed who Nick Fuentes is, it's been about 2.5 years, has never condemned him. There was a
Right.
Guardian article that I think by Hugh Lowell said the reason why he didn't condemn him, he realized by condemning Nick Fuentes, he might hurt part of his base. Speaking about Nazis, because you can't make this up. I don't know if you've seen the news that is going around. If you care about anti-Semitism, if you care about protecting Jews, I want to share this with you. I want to get it because it's going around right now. Folks, this is an actual tweet. Republican Senate candidate Mike Collins, former staffer, posted KKK and Nazi images. Don't you think this should be, I don't know, kind of big news or no? Oh,
I
by
mean,
the way, look at
well,
this.
yeah, but it's competing with
He
the Department
denies
of
he's a white
Education.
supremacist, but says, I do think that the white race contributes more to the world. But totally not a white supremacist, guys. No,
Yeah,
no way.
you're right. He's a white contributionist, I
Yeah, white
guess. But I mean,
contribution.
look,
White friend, white ally.
but it's about a couple of things here, I think. One is that the media, uh, they for whatever reason, and there are lots of theories, and having worked in TV, I have my own theories, but they focus more on a certain kind of outrage, and they find it more interesting when it's happening on the left. But also, they've so internalized this normalization of the routine things that happen in Congress. The way that Democrats talk about, you mentioned Islamophobic fear mongering. What about xenophobic fear mongering. Every time we get
That's
a
fine,
Democrat,
Jonathan. That's 2022. That's okay.
but the reality is, every time we get a Democrat up there who says, "Yeah, we can't have open borders and all of that stuff," they're endorsing this xenophobic narrative slash lie, which is that immigrants, either documented or otherwise, are presented danger, a physical danger to us, when in fact we know they commit crimes at a lower rate than native born Americans. And they represent an economic threat to us, when in fact multiple studies have shown that they are a net boon, a net contributor to the economy, adding more to the GDP, to government tax revenues at state and federal levels, than whatever costs are incurred by them being on whatever social benefit programs, whatever. All of that Democrats fly in the face of, and because they don't have the guts, they don't have the fortitude to stand up, just stand up for people, right? Like, and the other thing this is what we got caught talking about in the middle of, right? Which was Ossoff was talking about the latest Hasan Piker thing. And what makes me crazy about that, not that there isn't a basket of things that makes me crazy about that, is that you're being reactive.
There
You're
you go.
being responsive. You're letting them decide what you're talking about. And Ossoff, of all people, he just came off an epic week of him setting the agenda just by dropping three syllables, Natalie, into a speech, and boom, he saw, oh, we can actually set the agenda. There are so many things beyond. Look, I actually try at the fucking news. I try not to get caught up in the this person said that person said that, even on the right, right? Lots of obscene, stupid, vile things get said on the right. Mike Collins, I'm sure, is not going to be the last Republican to hire a Nazi on their campaign. I don't get into that stuff. And I would love to see the corporate media, and to whatever extent Democrats can lay claim to having any sort of media pipeline, where we need to be right now, looking ahead to 2028 and beyond, is we have a we have a very uninformed, let's say, and slash stupid electorate slash non-electorate. What Democrats need to be doing right now, when they have so much wind at their back, is using the platform that they have to get us away from outrage reaction on either side and get us towards understanding this is how the system works, right? You say that you're not interested in politics, you're living politics. Politics is shaping your life every single day, and I'm going to show you this one weird trick to make your life insanely better, and for your even more so for your kids, by explaining how things work. Most people literally just don't understand how stuff works. They think, oh, if a company is doing well, that means they're going to hire people. When it's the opposite, right? They just have no concept, and that's not necessarily their fault. For the last 50 plus years, the dismantling of the New Deal, of
Yep.
the whole Roosevelt reform, has involved making things more complex. They didn't roll it back with a steamroller. They cut it up like Swiss cheese so
Death
that
by a
they
thousand
could get
cuts.
through the thing. Death by 5,000 cuts, and that means it's a lot more complicated to wrap your head around, so most people just go, "I'm not gonna engage," and of course, a plurality end up not voting at all. Democrats have a platform right now, and they should be explaining to people how things work economically, politically, systemically, so that you don't have to sell the answers anymore. If there were one story, in fact, this is a piece I've been working on for the fucking news. I hope your kids aren't listening.
No,
Is um is this study from the Yale School of Public Health a couple weeks ago? I don't even know if you saw it. I
I
haven't
saw
even
it
seen it.
about
You did see it.
Medicare for all. Yeah, but we've told people on the left hook, but it always bears reminding. Please.
Bravo. Yeah. Literally, the study found that implementing Medicare for all conservatively would save $1 trillion in healthcare spending every year, and conservatively, 114,000 deaths would be prevented every year. I shouldn't say prevented. I guess I mean put off a little bit, right?
Save, like,
You
say
can
it'll
never
save
prevent.
110,000 people.
Yeah, exactly. That year. I don't want to imply that they're never going to die. But the point is that once we know this, right, now the impetus is on the media to approach everyone who opposes Medicare for all and say, how are you going to pay for that? How are you going to pay for another year of the system we have now? Where are you going to get the $1 trillion for that? How are you going to pay for that? That's the kind of thing. Ro Khanna is, I think, that's a lie. I saw another member of Congress pushing out the study, but that's the kind of thing that they should be setting the agenda with, rather than, I want to make sure everyone knows I also disagree with the thing Hasan Piker said today on his 8-hour Twitch stream. Like, there's so many more effective things. And once you say that, you don't even have to advocate for Medicare for all. All you have
Nope.
to do is explain, here's the study. Do you want that? I'm
I
just
mean, I
asking
mean,
questions.
hey, do you want to save lives? Here's Yale. Everyone's like, oh, Yale, that's a big time university. That's fancy schmancy. It has a conservative estimate that Medicare for all will save us $114,000. I like saving lives, but this is America. We worship money. Do you like to save $1 trillion? I would. There you go. Wow, universal healthcare. We save $1 trillion and we save lives. And you tell me we have no money, but we've wasted at least $40 billion in this unwinnable war, and we sent billions of dollars to Israel, and we bailed out the banks that screwed us in the worst economic crisis of my lifetime. Maybe it's time for Medicare for all. But you saw it, folks. You're seeing it in real time. As we just talked about, we Lake Ontario now is Lake America. Uh, Donald Trump is threatening to just bury the Kennedy Center. He goes, if my name can be on it, I'm just going to reconstruct it completely. Howard Lutnick's out right now on television, openly making the case, we're going to make it better. Look at the reflecting pool, which is now the algae pool. Look at the East Wing. They're completely destroying America. They're destroying our reputation. They're destroying our economy. They're destroying our alliances. We're attacking Canada. We're attacking NATO, but we're getting love letters from Kim Jong-un and Putin. We still don't know why our director of national intelligence, Jonathan Radcliffe, went to Russia. I don't know. If I was a Democrat, I'd ask that. Where's Mitch McConnell? I'd ask that. Who is Natalie Harp?
Let
But go ahead.
and again, like, if you want to eat, if I actually do try to be a little bit cautious about the latent Islamophobia behind, suspicions towards Saudi Arabia. However, if people want to get worked up, if the media want to get worked up about maybe Zoran Mamdani attending the 9/11 25th anniversary commemorations next month, he wasn't even the same denomination as the people who did it, let alone he wasn't of drinking age. Not that you can ever be of drinking age if you're observant, but it's so
I think
obviously
it was
absurd.
8 or 10 years old.
Yeah, I read even younger than that. But if that's worth outrage, what would you think about President Trump asking Congress to sign off on a deal to to facilitate and assist with Saudi Arabia getting nuclear power, which in theory is going to involve enriching uranium, and
Yep.
which down the road you can't guarantee that that's not going to be the seeds of nuclear weaponry and a nuclear arsenal. Saudi Arabia, the source of 15 out of 19
Yep.
hijackers, and he's doing this less than a month before the 9/11 25th anniversary. And people are worked up about the fact that Zoran Mamdani has the same faith. It's insane. And I say
I
this
know
all the
I've
time.
tried to. We brought it up on the left hook. That hey guys, are you perfectly fine with Donald Trump literally selling nuclear materials to Saudi Arabia, and the fact that he attacked Hillary Clinton for taking one donation in 2016, but then Jared Kushner greenlit the red wedding coup of MBS, and then Donald Trump and Steve Bannon went to Saudi Arabia, and Steve Bannon danced with swords, and it's great for business. And Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states have given like billions of dollars to Jared Kushner, who's completely compromised, and the fact that Hakeem Jeffries met with Jared Kushner, who failed his initial security clearance. I mean, even Jonathan, I'm going to say it. I don't want to get you in trouble. I tell people to trust the evidence of their eyes and ears. I said and I hate so the world's worst. I told you so because I want to be wrong about this. I said the Democratic establishment, not all Democrats, but I'm talking about the corporate donors, the leaders, and even people in corporate media like I don't know Casey Hunt, Dana Bash, who are so aggressive against Angie Nixon and Medicare. I don't know if you saw that strangely, oddly contentious interview than they are with any Republican. They will gladly bring it all down. They will crush Abdul Sayed, and they will use any means to crush Abdul Sayed. Because, in addition to the Islamophobia, what Abdul Sayed represents is a brown Arab man who doesn't take his marching orders from APAC or corporate money. The two major threats of Abdul Sayed, he's a progressive, not a democratic socialist, but he says, yeah, no funding from APAC, AI, crypto, and I want to abolish ICE and I want to tax the rich. That those two pillars, being aggressive on offense against APAC and being aggressive on offense against billionaires, that, if you will, cuts off their food supply. Ideologically, also when it comes to corporate funding. And they're terrified that if an Abdul Said can become a senator, right? You could tolerate maybe a member of the House. That's like a pawn. A Mamdani maybe is a knight. You could tolerate one. But now you got Mamdani, Angie Nixon, all these people in the House. A senator, my God, the senator is like what, a bishop, or maybe the senator is the knight. And they will, and I said it, I've been saying it for months. I said the Democrats will weaponize Hasan Piker as a battering ram to anyone to the left of Hakeem Jeffries. And folks, you're seeing it now. I don't know if you saw, but the Attorney General of Michigan, Dana Nessel, is like, I'm not going to support Abdul Sayed, and somehow equated him with like making excuses for terrorism. Hillary Scholten, Democrat, vote blue no matter who, except Abdul Sayed. Nonstop condemnation of Hasan Piker by Hakeem Jeffries and Neera Tanden. Hakeem Jeffries doubled down on that after it was revealed he met with Jared Kushner, but he pivoted real quickly, never really gave an explanation of why he would meet with Jared Kushner for affordability. And then, as two middle fingers in our face and a kick in the ass, Jared Moskowitz of Florida, who calls himself a Ron DeSantis Democrat, who's further to the right than J.D. Vance, according to him, when it comes to Iran, pro-Israel hawk, got appointed on the House of Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on the Middle East. What am I missing, John? I'm a crazy Muslim. You're a real American. You're white. You're safe. You're from the heartland. I'm crazy, but people trust you. You tell me.
I'm the son I'm the son of an immigrant, actually.
Don't say that
Um,
out loud. I'm going to edit that.
yeah, I don't know how sturdy my birthright citizenship is here today. Um, but yeah, the it's in a way, it's like, amazingly helpful for them to just admit, I was full of shit whenever I said vote blue no matter who."
Yeah.
You
Just be
know,
honest.
right, exactly. Thank you. Okay, fine. But I'm stunned at like, I thought Haley Stevens, I thought good for her the morning after. She did it right. She pivoted. She said, "I'm supporting Abdul. I'm gonna help get him elected." Um, I don't know how well she's followed through or not, but whatever. She said the thing when she had the microphone. But these people out there who are effectively legitimizing the Islamophobic bullshit, sensationalist, gotcha media bullshit. Sorry, I said bullshit
No,
twice.
say it.
That's coming from the right. You're jeopardizing the seat and potentially control of the Senate, which, by the way, will mean John Thune will remain the majority leader of the Senate. John Thune, who is on the record as a sponsor and as someone who has issued recommendations for the organization that runs the Bible study that teaches that the Jews killed Jesus. So you tell me which side here is better serving the cause of the fight against anti-Semitism. Because when I did that piece back in April, I think I called it the Democratic Hassan Piker hypocrites or something like that. When you look at what the body, the corpus of Hassan Piker, and just full disclosure, I used to work with Hassan, not together, but we were at the Young Turks together at the same time, just so no one thinks I'm covering anything up. We were on other sides of the country. I only met him once or twice. And I like the guy, just for the record. If you look at everything he has said, he is an on the record explicit opponent of anti-Semitism. He has, I think, wisely and correctly threaded the needle and shown that there is a seam between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. And this, by the way, is a conversation I've had many times with Mikey Weinstein, who runs the Military Religious Freedom Foundation and is himself Jewish. That guy, he is a target of anti-Semitism. He has shown me the shit in his mailbox that people leave. He
Yep.
has shown me the hate email that he gets, Jew, all kinds of slurs aimed at Jews, all kinds of stereotypes, horrific threats of rape and violence against his family. Like, that's anti-Semitism, not not I oppose what the Netanyahu government is doing. And I think that
Sorry,
and
Jonathan.
yeah.
Continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to add one more, which is, by the way, I also think we should follow US law and State Department policy when it comes to not approving arms sales for the use of human rights abuses.
That's silly. I don't like that at all. I don't like
That's
us.
anti-Semitic,
Yeah.
apparently.
I don't like us actually following our own Leahy laws and international laws and the rule-based order,
Right,
which is under attack by
right.
dictators. I don't like that at
And
all.
and the people who say we should break that rule, we should violate that law, they're the centrists. They're the normal ones. The radical ones are the law and order people saying, I think we should follow the law and not break it. That's considered radical. That's considered fringe.
Folks, I just want you to trust the evidence of your eyes, right? And I'm going to bring up some more evidence points. Uh, I mean, we briefly touched upon the fact that Howard Lutnick now, I'm not making this up, real quick, the Trump administration is now threatening to blow up and destroy the Kennedy Center unless his name is on it. So it's like a mob boss, got a great democracy over there. Be ashamed if something happened to it. They're literally doing this in real time right now. If you don't believe me, I'm going to show you the Washington Post article. I'm also going to show you, well, go back and check out Howard Lutnick's speech where he somehow talks about how Donald Trump being a great builder. And he's now accusing the Kennedy Center of having chunks of concrete falling off, which is why they need a complete rehaul. Nope. That's the White House. And that's, of course, the reflecting pool. I passed by it. It has that disgusting tarp over it because Donald Trump has hid JFK's name because he's such a petulant, piece of shit child, cult leader wearing a diaper, and everyone's saying the emperor has fantastic silk clothes. But that's just another example of a news story from today. Lake Ontario is Lake America. Trade war with Canada. Unwinnable war with Iran. All these anti-Semites in the Republican Party. We just found out an anti-Semitic, pro-Nazi, pro-KKK staffer. There'll be no news about it. Pastor Doug Wilson, no news about it. Speaking about Islamophobia, because I keep the receipts, Jonathan, it's not lost on me. Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, endorsed Randy Fine, a hate monger. He
Yeah,
endorsed
yeah,
Max Miller. I mean, you would
yeah.
think, oh, wow, maybe if you made this the news nonstop that the president endorsed a man allegedly who abused his wife and child in Ohio, you can pick up the seat. And then you could talk about him endorsing Randy Fine. Then you could talk about Nancy Mace's insane tweet. Then you could talk about Laura Loomer's insane Islamophobic tweets of the past 5 days. Instead, Neera Tanden, the president of CAP, the Center for American Progress, the Democratic think tank, retweeted Laura Loomer's Islamophobic attack on Hasan.
Yeah.
Folks, I want you to trust the evidence of your eyes and ears. And now that they see the polls, right? I've been saying this on the left hook. I said, watch the space, folks. And of course, I don't expect anyone to believe me because they're like, watch this crazy things. But I said, just watch the space. Going back to Mallory McMorrow weaponizing Hassan Piker against Abdul Said as a desperate last second attempt to kind of leapfrog over Haley Stevens. Instead, what happened? Streisand effect, Jonathan. It helped Hassan and Abdul Said. So it's the Democrats, folks, who weaponized and made Hassan Piker into a right-wing talking point to hurt anyone to the left. Now Fox has run with it. As all this stuff is happening, they have doubled down attacking Abdul Sayed and Hassan Piker. And then you have to ask yourself, why? And Jonathan, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you've been covering politics. I've been covering politics. AIPAC is the biggest spender in 2026. AIPAC has openly said, we're spending. AIPAC has spent up to $40 million of the $63 million to take out Abdul Said. Democrats welcome the AIPAC money. I asked Hakeem Jeffries. He said, I will take money from who I want to take money from. We was reported that he took AIPAC money and bundled it into other PACs to help the candidates he wants to win. He meets Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner, like him, also really friendly with Israel. They have the same business deals. You know, and I know when you have a private meeting, it's quid pro quo. I'll help you, you help me. Jared Moskowitz just got the head of the subcommittee. And now you have Dana Nessel, Hillary Scholten, and all the pro APAC Democrats. Every single senator that has come out in the past 3 days and attacked uh, Hasan Piker has a very close tie to APAC and Israel. Jonathan, am I crazy?
Well, I mean, it's I actually, and this might be my own naivete, but I tend to not um assume that it's so clearly quid pro quo, everything, out there. And I also wanted to talk about what you said, and look, it's also hard to determine whether APAC is giving money to change someone's mind or to reward a genuinely
Held belief.
held belief.
Yeah.
And I also tend to think that the money directly into a campaign is only one effective way of pushing a particular lawmaker. The other is simply influencing the media ecosphere, because I tend to think that a lot of the media people we've been talking about, named or otherwise, what 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 shapes their view, right? What puts things on their radar, what gets them interested in things is not, in my experience, and as you mentioned, I spent, I don't know, 20 years or so primarily in corporate media, and we didn't get memos telling us, here's what, you're supposed to go after today. I mean, yes, there are, editorial guidance notes and things like that,
But to be fair,
but
Jonathan, you weren't working for Fox or CNN.
well, I was working for CNN
Oh, you
for
were? Okay.
yeah, I worked for CNN for 3 years, 4 years, something like that. 2000 to 2004, something like that. I helped launch Anderson Cooper 360, actually. I knew Anderson from, ABC, but, especially in prime time, there's a lot more autonomy, but what they're what they're what they are vulnerable to is groupthink. And and what the producers, in my experience, more so than the anchors, the top producers, they are driven by terror
Yeah.
of having their show say the wrong thing. That is like the one overarching thing. Like, please don't let me get in trouble for something we do on the show today. And so it's all iterative. It's driven by what things that people have said before. And you mentioned earlier that it was, I think you said that it was CNN that had sort of unearthed this Hassan Piker stuff.
Oh, well, they're lying. I want to show you why Dana Bash. Zateo talked about this. She's it's very clear for the past 2.5 years. She's not objective on Israel Palestine. Her recent appearance in Milmar to her interviews with lawmakers, Bash doesn't even hide her pro-Israel bias. And then this is
Right.
she slanders Hassan Piker and condemns him for saying almost exactly what she said during her friendly interview with Netanyahu a prior month. And then this is a lie, folks. This is a lie where, just hold on one second. She accuses Piker of excusing sexual violence from Hamas terrorists. That's remarkable that a CNN anchor could say that, because that's a bold-faced lie. That's literally a lie. You could dislike Hassan Piker all you want. He's a big boy. He can defend himself, but he never said that. And so this pile-on that's coming, from Dana Bash, the Jake Tappers, and Biana Goldriga, and I could also tell you, when I was on Morning Joe, I wrote a piece for The Atlantic on the settlers. They didn't tell me, Jonathan, that, I was Mika. Mika's very sharp, as you know. We had a 5-7 minute, one-on-one talking about my reporting and what's happening in the West Bank. And then Barry Weiss shows up. And I'm like, oh, hey. And at that time, we were colleagues. So I was writing for the New York Times and she had some interesting position. I'm like, nice. You have to be friendly. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm like, why are you here? And she like, to debate you. No one told me. So then after that nice 5-minute session with Mika, Barry comes on. And then it's like, Mika becomes like mouse fart. Mika's very smart. She doesn't say a word. So now that I'm getting my licks in, because, facts, Joe Scarborough, this is a true story, was taking a break. I see him from the corner of my eye drinking coffee. He taps in, takes over like quarterback. Mika doesn't say a word for the next 12 minutes. And now it's Joe and Barry literally repeating APAC talking points against me. And I just want to I don't want to yes, you're right that, people don't get like talking points and memos officially, but we have to also confront the obscene double standards that we've seen in front of our face in the past, well, my whole life when it comes to Muslims, Islamophobia, the Middle East, and Palestinians versus what is clearly a pro Israel tilt by some producers and some anchors. I know you might disagree with
I
me with that, but I've
No,
seen it
no,
my
no.
entire life.
What I was going to say was sort of an acknowledgement of what you're saying, which is I do think that Israel might actually be alone in terms of occupying that kind of space where um where whatever knee jerk or deeply held beliefs and feelings journalists, especially on-air journalists, might have, I think there's much more freedom and less worry about indulging that. I think there's this assumption that this is the norm, right? And historically, politically, that's kind of been the case in this country, right? It's only very recently that the democratic not facade, the democratic unity with Israel, Leary laws be damned, has started to crack. So I think you're right that that kind of bias was there, is strong, and was unexamined. But I think in some ways there's a deeper, almost non-political problem with our media as well. And the reason I brought up what you said about CNN and Hasan Piker was because back in, I think, 2024, maybe 2025, I don't remember. But I was curious to see, where did the transphobia
Mm,
stuff come from that drove especially the latter days of the presidential campaign? And there was one very effective Trump ad, and I don't remember what the specifics were. It was obviously something horrible, but I was able to reverse engineer it, and basically it all started with CNN's website, the CNN.com, unearthing from the ancient mists of 2020 a Kamala Harris questionnaire where she had been asked, I think, about transgender rights in prison or something like that. And this was what was so fascinating. And then that article generated a segment on Aaron Burnett. So now you had sound bites about it. I think you ended up having Charlemagne the God
yeah.
talk about it. Then of course the soundbite ended up in the Trump ad, and now everyone's talking about it. And we've forgotten, why did this come up? And the reason it came up was because someone at CNN.com thought, oh, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look and see what they've said. And that's within the bounds of what journalists do. That's fine. But someone at some point made a decision that it was newsworthy that Harris had said this 4 years ago. Why? Right? That why is never ever
Ever,
addressed.
ever,
I
ever.
remember when the new MS Now uh, was first talking about launching, they put out a statement of like, here are our editorial principles. And I read through them, and I worked at MSNBC for, I don't know, 6, 8 years, something like that. And nowhere in this new set of editorial principles was there anything about what, what guides our decision about what is worth talking about. And the only thing I can tell that was worth dragging this infinitesimally significant issue. Obviously, it's very important to the transgender people involved, but it affects the lives of a minuscule portion of Americans and voters. But CNN decided this is worth focusing on today, right now. And it's because of this, like, oh, maybe we can generate some heat with this, even though she was already on the record with it, right? It was already public just 4 years ago. But it represented this thing we can make into news. And so now we're talking about it, and then it's a snowball going down the hill, and eventually it becomes part and parcel of the Trump campaign, and now it's legitimized because, oh, it was in the news. We don't look at these things, and this is why I realize it sounds very sour grapes of me as someone who's not in corporate media and did my best to make corporate media better when I was inside it, but like, don't watch. Do not feed do not feed the ecosystem that produces such toxic byproducts, right? If it's not focusing people's attentions on things that will actually lead to positive change, deny them your eyeballs and the money they get by having your eyeballs. Find the people, and I love the fact that you mentioned that you've talked about the Medicare for All study, right? Find the people who are talking about that, even though there's no SEO payoff for that. No one's searching for that, right? Find the journalists who don't give a shit what the SEO mandate is for the day. Find the people who aren't just surfacing what some obscure person said who doesn't have any control over anything just to get outrage going. Find the people who are surfacing and pushing issues and information and understanding that you can actually recognize as being on the path to better things. Find those people, support those people.
Yeah, and people like Jonathan, doing the good work, folks. We try our best. So many of you who watch me and have said that you stop watching CNN and MSNBC and Fox and all these other things because clearly, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And the one thing I'll say about my time at CNN was in the green room. I noticed how they're all buddies with each other, and you kind of mentioned the Jonathan. You were talking about how it's like kind of the same type of club, right? They're kind of the ecosystem. It is. It's a very small ecosystem where they bounce back the same talking points. They get force fed the same talking points by very powerful people who are on the New York to DC Acela train. And then they're also terrified. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Fear. It's nonstop fear. And then also, it's a fake both sides equivalence that they have created that only helps the right wing and moves the Overton window more and more and more to the right. It always goes shifting to the right because the right wing bullies them and they always bend the knee, always going back to the fear. But we don't do that. We don't bend the knee. We call it how we see it. We try to bring you facts and we give you our commentary and then we give you the evidence behind our commentary. And it's up to you to decide. You all are very intelligent people. Jonathan, shamelessly promote yourself, sir.
Well, thank you. I don't know what you're like for time, but I do have a fun CNN both sides story before I shamelessly promote myself, if you
Sure.
want it. If we got okay, real quickly, they were going to do some like political satire show or something, and I interviewed with, I think the guy who was running it, and he said, we're not gonna have fear or favor. We're gonna go after both sides. This was 20 years ago, so it was basically like, look, if Bush is screwing up in Iraq, we're gonna make fun of him for that. And it turned out that John Kerry's campaign had just sent out a press release with the letterhead upside down. So he said, and at the same time, we'll poke fun at Kerry for sending out a press release on upside down stationery. And I don't remember how clearly I said this or whether I did just get my mouth shut, but like those are not equivalent things, right? This
Uh,
pressure, this idea that if Bush commits our first explicitly preemptive illegal war, that therefore we also have to find a bad facts from the John Kerry campaign. You're borderline insane if you think that way.
Jonathan, that
Anyway,
kept happening. I mean, NPR
um,
did a piece. Go check out this piece with NPR where it was revealed that the editors, the politics editors, there was like a laundry list of shit that Donald Trump had done, right? Much like right now. So then the editor said, okay, for the sake of balance, we need to find something that Clinton had done. And then a producer raised their hand and said, like, what happens if there's no equivalence? And then the editor didn't give any response. So like, try to find it. That means Trump can be a rapist. He could be a criminal. He could be corrupt. He could launch an
right,
illegal war. He could try to take down the Kennedy Center. He can waste $1 billion
right,
for his ballroom. There can be Nazis
right,
running around. And there's one Hasan Piker. 50% of
right.
the news coverage is to that, 50% to Hasan
Yeah,
Piker. Has that helped
if
democracy?
you're lucky, right,
If you're lucky.
right. The definition of fairness by which they should abide is very simple. It's not hit them both. It's know where your bar is, and whenever and whoever goes below the bar, that's who you go after. And if it's only one party that goes below the bar, then that's who you go after. And that's without fear or favor. That's just saying, well, that's the ethical bar that we find newsworthy. If you're violating the law, if you're raping people in Manhattan dressing rooms, we're going to do that. Putting out an upside down memo, that doesn't make the bar. And if only one party happens to violate that, which, by the way, I don't think is true. Bob Menendez went to jail, right? It does
He's
happen.
still in jail.
But to yeah, but to pretend that it's equal and therefore, what a coincidence, by the way. I'm always amazed. What an amazing coincidence that they consistently, you know, err or sin exactly the same amount of time. Anyway, people can find me at jonathanlarson.substack.com. That's where I do original reporting. Someone in the chat was asking for me to talk about what I uncovered about where Tom Suozzi lives when he's in Washington, which should also be a scandal. You can find that at jonathanlarson.substack.com. And every weekday morning, I do a sort of political news wrap up called The Fucking News at thefuckingnews.substack.com. And I hope folks will come check it out. And by the way, thanks to my paid supporters, everything is free for everyone.
Folks, similarly, this is the Left Hook. Everything is free for everyone, thanks to the paid supporters. If you can, become a paid subscriber. I've kept a forever special, which is 25% off. It's $3.75 a month forever. It's the lefthook.substack.com/special. If you don't have the money, just subscribe on YouTube and Substack. That goes a long way. It juices up the algorithm. But if you can't, then I mean, I don't know. Just watch, I guess. Share. Do what you can. Thank you all for watching. Thanks to Jonathan. Go subscribe to Jonathan's 2 Substacks. It's fantastic investigative work. And then ask yourself, why are we covering this Twitch streamer that I didn't know about, but we're not covering the collapse of our democracy? Who does that benefit? How does that benefit me? It doesn't. And then hopefully by asking these questions, it will seek you on a path to get some answers and enlightenment, which hopefully you will find on Jonathan's Substack and at the Left Hook. Thank you all for watching. I'll be back in a few minutes with Mike Madrid, where we're going to go over all the polls and what the polls mean about the current state of play for democracy for both political parties and the upcoming midterms. See you all in a couple minutes. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
And also, as I always say, be kind, be informed, and please, oh, please don't be a fascist.